everyone. Welcome back to episode 3.
I know,
of the Intentional Life podcast. We're so excited to be with you. Thank you for watching our first 2 episodes, which is Working in Corporate, which was a 2-part episode and such a great share for all of us on our journeys in corporate thus far. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, then please definitely check it out and let us know what you think. But today, I think we're going to talk about a topic that I think is so important, but something that we don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
And that is about being intentional about your money.
Ooh,
I like it.
I also like it.
I love that this topic just like elicits the response of ooh. I just love it.
I also love that part.
we know it's dramatic.
You know it's going to be a good one,
it's gonna be a
guys.
good one.
You know it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and we don't want to just like scratch the surface. We want to go really deep with this. We want to talk about the things that people may not tell you.
Yes.
And yet there's still some parts of it we're going to steer clear of. So we're going to get into all of that.
The things that people are maybe uncomfortable about talking about.
Yeah.
Like try and scratch the surface on some of those stigmas.
Yeah.
I think I'm very excited. I hope it's going to be like a deep dive into the topic. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so the questions you wanted to ask but you didn't know how, the things you've thought about and you wonder if anyone else has ever thought those things also. It's a very serious one. I've got a book and everything.
Yeah. You got the questions.
Very intentional about this.
Okay. Absolutely.
The direction of this topic.
Absolutely. So let's delve into it.
Let's get into it. Let's just ask the question off the bat. Why is it so awkward to talk about money? Like if I had to ask you right now, San, what do you earn?
Oh, hell no, I'm not telling you that. I'm not going to lie, I'm not telling you that.
I know.
I have a job and I work.
Yes.
If you're going to ask me about my money,
Yeah.
I have a job and I work.
But why is that such an awkward question?
I mean, I'll be honest, Zan. I might not say I have a job and I work, but I'll be like, I will change the subject. I will really. I don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not ashamed of it by
Yes.
any means. I'm very proud of myself. But maybe it's that I don't want people to automatically look at me and then if they know a number, be like, oh, that's how she has X or Y. That there's no sacrifice and no saving and no effort that goes into it. Maybe I don't want the judgment. Maybe I like to protect my peace.
Yeah.
I think for me, I just feel like people start budgeting with your money.
Explain.
Because I feel like if they already know how much you earn, they'll look at you and be like, no, she can afford to get me this, get me that. So I feel like if people don't know how much I earn, when I do things for them, I do it because I want to.
And because you love them, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think also people will place a value on you if they know what you earn? Maybe they'll also look at you and be like, should she be earning that much?
Or even poor thing, she only earns that much.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Like,
Poor
you know.
thing.
Yeah. Do you think that's also part of it? Also, I think, maybe growing up a little bit in brown culture, it may be considered rude.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
tacky to talk about your money.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think we forget how much our upbringing and our learned experiences affects everything, including how we feel about money without realizing that that's how we feel about money.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think culture plays a role in it.
But I can tell you, with certainty, there's no childhood trauma that's stopping me from telling you what I earn. It's just weird.
No, agreed.
so
Agreed.
weird.
There's no trauma.
I
very
say
proud of
there's
myself.
no trauma.
There's no trauma.
But I'm just, don't ask me.
I'm just private about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't ask.
exactly.
the other thing.
Exactly.
I would never. Yes. Never ask somebody, oh, Zan, that's a nice pair of shoes. What you get in your bonus? Yeah.
and I feel like, touching on what you said, I feel like sometimes people ask you so that they can class you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, why?
Yeah. I mean, look, our first episode was around corporate, so I think a lot of the time I get the sort of questioning around how much I earn because people want to compare me if they're not in corporate. So they want to be like, oh, you earn how much? Because, outside of corporate, this is what you could be. It's always a judgmental thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's no definitive reason. It's just awkward.
I mean, I suppose it's coming from the fact that you know that the reality is not everybody has the best intentions with the information that they have about you, and it's about letting people in your trusted circle in. Although I don't know, it's between me and my payslip, guys. Nobody else knows what it is that I earn.
But have you seen that trend where people will walk up to you in the street and be like, "Hi, what do you do? How much do you earn?" What would happen to you guys if someone did that to you?
I would turn and run down the street. I swear.
I agree.
I'd
Strike,
be
scream,
gone.
and run.
Just gone.
I would literally
not happening.
go silent and just walk away.
Or just walk away.
I'm
deep.
literally look at them and just walk away.
Yeah, I think just make it super dramatic and about me. But I think that's the thing when you're thinking about money is that it is awkward, and we come towards it in a very logical sense. So it's rands and cents, it's dollars, it's spreadsheets, it's budgets, it's all of these like big technical terms. But I think that nowadays people are trying to understand or starting to understand that there's a huge emotional component to money.
Definitely.
And it's stemming from our childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's impacting the way that we spend without us even realizing it.
Yes.
Like, would you guys agree with that statement? Like, everything that you would have experienced in your childhood, maybe now that you're starting to think about, okay, when I first started earning, how was I spending?
I agree, because I feel like I saw my parents budget my whole life, you know, and I think from a young age, it made me aware that we couldn't afford certain things. And I feel like when I started working, there's a period where I went overboard.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I sat down with myself, I realized it was because of those moments when we didn't have enough, you know. I'm not going to lie, my parents afforded me a relatively okay life, but when you saw them budgeting and the conversations, you know, like subtle conversations, you could pick up that there was not enough to go the extra mile.
And the stress around that.
Yeah,
exactly,
absolutely.
you know.
Because that's the thing. You see, as children, you may not realize, okay, look, what is rands and cents?
Yeah.
Yes.
But you had this feeling of how the topic of money changed your environment.
Yes.
And it changed it in so many different ways. So exactly what you're saying, Zan, if you grow up and this would happen to a lot of people, if your parents ever said things like, we can't afford that, that's too expensive, that sounds too much, you've had your treat for this month kind of thing. You now have this like almost deep-rooted fear that you're never going to have enough.
Exactly. It's like a scarcity mindset.
Yes, yes. And so what you start to do is like you hoard almost. Yeah. And you have this anxiety around money. You don't want to spend.
You don't want to spend.
Yes.
Or you overspend.
Or you overspend.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're like so anxious about it that you can't figure out why. Or you had a parent who would only spoil you if you were successful in something. Then only would you see like the money side of it coming out.
Yeah.
So now what you're sort of doing is looking at money as like a form of validation.
Well, yes. And I think I just want to touch on that for like a second. Because if you flip it, there's actually a good side to that. If you had a parent who then said, okay, for every A that you get, you'll get X amount of money. Because maybe that also taught you that hard work comes with reward. It taught you to be competitive. It taught you to have something to strive towards, you know. Obviously, if it negatively impacts you that, from a sense of validation, that's a very different conversation. But I think there is value in creating a competitive spirit versus having your child who's just like, it's okay, go to school, it's fine, results don't matter.
Using it as a reward system.
Using it as a reward system is actually very valuable.
Yeah.
Touching on what you're saying, because guys, I don't know, if you look at how it is nowadays, right? I always ask myself when I see kids with tablets and all of that, I'm like, it's okay, but I'm like, what is the younger generation working towards? I feel like sometimes I don't know, like
I completely agree with you. It's like you're flipping the script on the achievement one. So now it's like before you even achieved something,
everything is handed to
money
you.
is no object.
Yeah, everything's handed to you.
Everything you want, you will get.
Or sometimes when I look at it, I'm like, is it because of how I,
Maybe.
maybe
not.
Maybe it's normal.
Maybe.
But because I didn't grow up like that, there's a part of me that could be a bit resentful, maybe.
But like those people could also grow up and then be like, oh, but everything should be handed to me. It was handed to me when I was younger. So you're also going to struggle with that.
You don't learn to work for anything in your life.
Or you could have just had an instance, where your parents were either very secretive about money, or every time they spoke about money, it caused a fight.
And in that, in that scenario, you learn not to ask questions, and then you have no information. So if you're an adult, and then if you're lucky enough to then start working and you start getting money, you have no idea where to begin to budget, to look at your money, to do anything.
Absolutely.
At all.
It feels so emotional and heavy to you.
And you know what the scary part about it is? Like, we somehow expect that people, when you start working, to know what to do with your money.
Yeah.
But we never had the conversation. And then, funny enough, we also judge people.
Yes.
Like, how are you in debt?
Exactly.
Yes.
But people are not educated about how to make their money work for them.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the exact thing. You see, because of how you would have had your own experience growing up, and everyone's is so different. Like, until you've done that work to fix it, you're going to keep spending in a way that may not always make sense to you. But
Exactly.
like, you're working off this like childhood emotion of I need to do this instead of adult logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you said there is so important because two people who are in the same space, like even like grow up in the same house,
Yeah.
can learn and take different things like away from the experience. Like Zen, you said, you know, you didn't grow up with money, and then when you started working, you would overspend.
Yeah.
And you would have somebody that reacts that way, and then you'd have somebody on the flip side of it that would only save, that would be too scared to buy themselves anything nice ever, even when they work hard and they save. So you could have two very different lived experiences
Completely.
from the same like rooted childhood experience.
So I think that's what we want to really communicate today. That until you've done that work to understand how it is that your childhood impacted the way that you spend today, until you've like maybe unlearned some of these negative things and relearned better ways, the way you spend is never really going to make sense to you.
Absolutely.
And you can't shy away from it.
Absolutely.
So that's really what we want to, you know, get into today.
Yeah.
So Zan, tell us, if you can, a little bit about how you started to figure out, okay, wait, hold on. The way that I'm spending doesn't make sense to me. And it's coming from how I was raised or how I experienced money as a child.
I feel like self-awareness is very important. I feel like when I started, like, you know, when you go through your bank statement and you don't understand where the money is going. And then I needed to have those conversations with myself, you know. I needed to realize that, no, I need to put a plan. And that came with creating an Excel sheet where literally I have my inflows and then my outflows. And then every month, once the month has gone by, after all the debit orders have gone through, then I literally put in what I spent.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I did that, sort of like a variance analysis to see this is what I expected to spend, this is what I actually spent, I was able to see the items in which I was going overboard.
Yeah.
For instance, clothing.
Yes.
You know, I was spending a lot on clothes, I was spending a lot on shoes. I was going out more often than I wasn't supposed to. Yeah.
Do you think also that you have to give yourself a little bit of grace?
Definitely.
You have to forgive yourself, forgive your parents, your family. They were doing the best that they can do.
I think definitely that's important because obviously everybody's experiences are their learned experiences. So in the same way that you are now an influence of your lived experience, your parents are the influence of their lived experience. It goes back generations and generations. That's what you need to actually realize and understand. And that's where you start breaking these generational traumas.
Yeah, because there is a lot of generational trauma around money.
Yeah, especially in brown culture.
Absolutely.
And that's the reality. And you've got to have very honest conversations. And sometimes you can't have these kind of conversations with necessarily your parents or your grandparents. There's no need to either, because there's no need to upset the apple cart or blame anybody. But the accountability is more on yourself to say, this definitely isn't going to work.
Yes.
I need to be the generation that changes it, you know.
To be able to tell yourself, look, even though this is how I've been spending, like it doesn't have to remain that way forever.
I feel like for me, how I also look at my parents, right? And I look at those who came before me, I was like, I feel like if they knew better, they would have done better.
Of course.
And I feel like I agree. We should give our parents and people around us who we feel that they should have told us grace, because I feel like they were trying to find themselves. They were trying to navigate the space of money, you know?
And right now we're in a very different technological age. We have access to a lot of information at our fingertips that our parents and grandparents did not have access to. That helps you also make better decisions or uncover areas that you could do things better. But then bringing it back to your budget, how often do you fill in that spreadsheet? Is it like every time you buy something? Like if someone's sitting at home and being, I want to do an Excel budget, you know?
Every time. Every time I picked it up from a friend and I still do it. My brothers will tell you that I always say that if it's not in my numbers, I'm not doing it. And I think, funny enough, recently my brother was like, the numbers are not working. And that's when I realized, you know, when we start having the conversations, I feel like our behavior towards money will definitely change.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Has, what's your
So I wish I had a unique experience, but apparently I don't. So I also do the Excel sheet thing. And what I find is that, you know, it's a very dynamic Excel budget. So I don't have a fancy one with dashboards and colors and all that great stuff out there. It's very simplistic, but it works for me. And, you know, like I really try to romanticize the whole, you know, doing a budget and like looking at those numbers. And, you know, I really look at it month on month. So I'll go into the new month just before I get paid. I work in corporate, as we know from episode 1. before we get paid, and have a look and say, okay, look, what needs to change in this month's budget? So, is it like a friend's birthday coming up? Do I need to budget for that? Do I need to do a car service? And making sure that I've got all of that information filled in so that it's not this level of anxiety that comes through later. I'm not as good at keeping myself accountable to the way Zan does it, where I put in the amounts afterwards, but I do track. So I spend purely like on a card, not a credit card. And so I can see the transactions that have gone off my bank statement. And I know, okay, look, this is where I need to rein it in and so on. For me, I'm girl math. If I have cash, it's free. Like,
Same here.
Absolutely.
buying with
terrible.
cash means I haven't
Yeah.
spent anything.
I am
so-
terrible at
Yes.
carrying cash.
Yeah.
I mean, I think next to both of you, I don't even have anywhere near as structured a method. I just use technology to my advantage. So first of all, banking app. If you don't have one, I think that for me is the place to start, because you could literally log in there, check on your information, what's happening in your account every day if you wanted to,
Yeah, I love that, because I think that you should know your bank account balance
Definitely.
every single day.
Definitely. It keeps you accountable.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be waiting for the end of the month to get a bank statement in the mail
Oh, no,
or an
no,
email.
no.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
no,
far
no.
too late by then.
I probably never opened that email bank statement at all, to be honest. But coming back to what I do in terms of budgeting is basically kind of like a digital envelope system, which is breaking down many little sub accounts. So
that's
all
very
my
useful.
like living expenses, which are fixed, go into like one. So as I get paid, and then my average grocery spend into another bucket, and then like if like supplements and beauty stuff into another bucket, and so on and so forth. So that I'm very intentional about how much am I spending on groceries, how much am I spending on fuel, and monitoring why are these things changing, if they are changing. Did I have bigger purchases this month, because Murphy's Law, sometimes everything runs out all at once, so you end up having a month where you're buying everything. But yeah, it's just using technology to my advantage.
I think also what's really good with that is that psychologically you'll find that if you have allocated an amount to a specific bucket or a specific sub account, it's difficult for you to then go and spend from it. So
Yeah.
if you have like a travel section of your money,
Yeah.
you're not going to go and take that money and splurge on clothes.
Yes.
So that really helps to like train your mindset a little bit, which is really important. So I think the other thing that I've put into my budget in more recent years is an element of saving. So making sure that I'm saving and investing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, that was probably the biggest mindset shift after I started working. As you also know from episode 1, I'm working in corporate. And for me, it was even starting small, but being consistent about
Yes.
it, and like that money is building an emergency fund, and that's its purpose, for like the rainy day, basically. And it's something I still am very lucky and grateful that I do to this day. So when I get paid, the first thing I do is pay myself, as in put in money away in savings, and then act as if it's basically not there.
I get what you're saying, but what if there's somebody sitting at home, right, who's like, guys, I'm in debt. I'm no close to trying to save, right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them as to where do they start?
I think it's such an important question, because everything is so expensive nowadays. I think we
Yeah.
can all agree.
Yeah.
And just because you're in debt, it's first of all, it's not really your fault. It happens. You get into the situation just trying to stay afloat sometimes,
Yeah.
But my advice would be to start with doing a full like audit on where it is your money is going.
Yes.
So if you're not the person that looks at your app or your bank statements and you don't understand where your money is going, start there.
Absolutely.
And you might find that, for example, you have subscriptions to all streaming platforms. Then sit down and actually ask yourself, if I cut one of these and I first start by putting the money into the debt, if I'll eat at the debt faster, and then I can start building towards saving. It's got to be honest and hard conversations
Yes.
with yourself about where can I cut
Yeah.
the money as well. Do I have a gym membership but I never actually go to
that's a
gym?
good one, yeah.
How often do I eat out? Because let's be very honest, as much as there's so much of convenience with like Uber Eats and all of those things, it's also very, very expensive. If you do it every day, it's going to definitely add up.
Yeah.
So I would suggest start with a lifestyle audit. That's something simple anyone can do at home. You don't need financial training or knowledge to do it. And it's literally you having an honest conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And if you do that, slowly start to eat at your debt, and then eventually start saving.
Yeah, and I think also start small.
Yeah.
Yes.
We talk about emergency funds, and people talk about having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in an emergency fund.
Yeah, because-
that is overwhelming.
Yes.
I know, Has, because I feel like what we also miss from that, we're not in touch with people's experiences.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, some people are at a point where they're living from paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
And then when they're trying to, you know,
Yes.
better themselves financially, the first advice you hear, save to 3-6 months.
3
like,
to 6
where?
months. That's
you know?
that's
How?
absolutely
Where?
yeah.
Yes.
You know?
So I think that's the thing. I think start small. So maybe not 3 to 6 months, but you know, whatever you're saving, think about it that if tomorrow you have an emergency and you
Yes.
have an extra 500 rand that you can put towards that maybe it won't completely derail you.
Yes. And derail your budget.
Derail your budget,
Exactly.
and then also derail your mental health because now you're trying to fix this. So I think that's the other thing with saving is that it's such a mindset shift, like we've been saying. You know, you start to tell yourself, oh wait, I can actually do this.
Yes.
And that, you know, I can be in control of my money's not in control of me. So I think
That's
start
what
somewhere.
it is. I can
Yes.
be in control of it.
Yeah.
I think that is a very, very important statement.
Yeah, I really agree.
I want to twist it a bit, right? We're always talking about saving, which is very important, right?
Yes.
But do you feel like because of maybe it's our background and our anxieties, a lot of focus is on saving, but we never talk about creating other avenues so that you find yourself in a position where you're not heavily reliant on maybe your corporate job?
I mean, is one of those investing?
Yeah.
I think that the thing about investing is that it's so scary.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've all grown up. You may not have always heard the financial terms that are out there.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, like with investing, you're giving your money away to someone else and it's
Yes.
in their control.
Yes.
But it's also not in their control because the world, you know, can do anything at
Exactly.
any given time. That's terrifying.
Absolutely. I like seeing my money where it is. Like I can log
Yes.
into my app and it's in my savings account. It makes me very anxious to think about investing. But the reality is you will not build wealth just by saving.
Yeah.
You need to invest and do it smartly in order to build wealth.
Yeah. This whole thing of having the money under the mattress
Oh,
thing just doesn't
definitely
apply.
not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get you guys talking about investing. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, fine. I've started my savings. I've got my emergency funds. Great. Now I want to go into investing. What do you guys suggest people do before they just go? Next thing you hear people, I'm getting into Bitcoin, I'm into all of these things. What are your advice would be for somebody who's in that position?
Yeah, so I think you've got to get your basics down.
Right.
So you need to have the level of financial literacy where you're understanding the terms that you're seeing in terms of investing. And that's very overwhelming at the start. So, you know, there's no such thing as like you're going to make quick money. If someone's promising you that, it's probably not true.
Yes.
And then the thing with investing also is that you need to learn to trust yourself and build that tolerance. So you've got to start reducing the fear. So I would say, you know, start with a small portion. Find a platform that works for you and, you know, invest that money after doing some research for you to see, you know, is this a good stock? Is this a good unit trust? Whatever it may be. Put that money in there, leave it. Don't keep looking at it and refreshing that screen every 2 minutes to see how your money is doing. And then the next month, take a small amount to do the same thing all over again. That's how I think you build that tolerance.
I think that's exactly what it is. And the other thing, like I keep saying, is we're in an age where we're so lucky. We have so much of technology around us. So something that I enjoy doing is even watching like TikTok reels where someone breaks down what is Bitcoin and what are these terms, and like they talk about emergency funds and ways you can budget better, like simple everyday language we didn't grow up learning by watching TikTok reels, because people who are subject matter experts are gracious enough to share their content with the world, and we can learn so much from it.
Do you think people shy away from learning about it because they don't want to look stupid?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
We've got to get like rid of that stigma though.
You know, when it comes to getting rid of the stigma, especially with money, is like we're not talking about it.
not.
You know, we're not talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest problems.
Yes.
You know,
You've got this friend who's saying they have like, you know, 10,000 in Bitcoin and you're like, oh, I have no Bitcoin.
I don't even know what
I
10,000
don't-
in Bitcoin means,
yeah.
you know. Like I have a vague
But that's
idea.
the thing,
Yes.
but like you feel embarrassed to ask.
Exactly.
Which that needs to go away.
But
yeah.
again, that for me is the beauty of technology,
Yeah.
because either, I mean, you could ask ChatGPT, and the only person that would know is you and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You could search for on TikTok, you at home with your buds on. Nobody needs to know that you're feeling maybe a little embarrassed. And the more you ask and the more you learn, the less embarrassed you'll feel, the more confident you'll feel to have conversations. So again, that's the beauty of how much technology we have around us.
What are the basic things that you think people should learn about when they're looking at the money? I mean, I think budgeting is a very good one, understanding your inflows and your outflows. I think also becoming a bit more comfortable with the terms that you're hearing.
Yes.
So when you hear things like compound interest, or,
Yeah.
yes.
you know, like familiarize yourself with that stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
like non-finance girlies. Like, you know, you
Yeah.
want to go and find out. The more you know, the better for you in making these decisions. You'll become more empowered also.
I totally agree
That's
with that.
it.
Yeah.
And I think as women especially, because I mean, if you think about it realistically, it's only in the last few decades that women could hold their own bank account even.
Yeah.
So, we ourselves are still learning so much because now we've been given these opportunities, and we've been given opportunities previous generations didn't even have. And so it is very much a learning curve. So don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't think, I'm already in corporate, I should know all
Yeah.
of these things,
Yeah.
know? And I mean,
Yeah.
there isn't a course in university that teaches you about
Why
this.
isn't there?
They should be. I mean, forget university. Take it back to high school. There should be
Yeah.
there should be a course in high school like they do life studies or
Yes.
life
Yeah.
sciences, and they teach you the daily life things. This should be part of it. But just because you do have value to add and you're a subject matter expert in your career doesn't mean you'll have the finance knowledge, doesn't mean you're stupid either, you know.
I agree.
And I think also money is very personal. What
100%.
works for one person may not
Oh,
necessarily
definitely.
work
Yeah,
for you. So just
definitely.
because one person is doing shares or
Yeah.
buying crypto,
Oh, yes.
that may not be the right thing for your financial journey. You also can't copy what someone else is doing. It's very personal.
Absolutely. I've
Yeah.
heard stories of the people who'll be like, they sold their car and they put it into crypto, and I'll be like, there is no way I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
take a risk like
Yes.
that. So your appetite for risk
Yes.
plays a role in it. I'll be like, there's no way I'm going to do
Yes.
that. And it pays off for people,
Yeah.
but it will never be me. So
Yes.
exactly what you said.
Yeah, you have to determine your own appetite for
Absolutely.
risk. But be ready to inject a little bit of fear into
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
definitely.
Because otherwise you'll never step outside of your comfort zone.
True. I know has you into investments.
Yes.
If somebody wants to know where to start, which platform
So,
worked for you?
I mean, I would talk about the platform that I use in the same breath, saying, we are not financial planners. So, please don't take any of our advice as a way to, go and invest and then blame us if something goes wrong. But I use Easy Equities as one of the platforms. I find it really easy to use. You can start from literally any amount, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Because then that really is emphasizing that you can start with a small amount, but just start.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what's great about that platform is that it has local shares, international shares, unit trusts, cryptocurrency, property. So you've got a vast range of things that you can put your money into. And another great thing that the platform does, and we've spoken about this before,
Yeah.
is the demo account.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love
Yes.
that.
So
Love that.
the demo account is basically where you're given a little bit of fake money to go in and test the markets, to try buying some shares, seeing how things go. And I think that's really great because all you're trying to do is, if not eliminate the fear, you're trying to reduce that fear.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's what investing really is about. And the thing is, there is just so much uncertainty.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
You could pick all the right shares after you've done every little bit of research, and then there is a market downturn that is in no one's control.
Absolutely.
And you just watch your portfolio tanking. And that's what you need to shift.
Absolutely. Or on the flip side, there could be a share that's starting up and you don't invest in it.
I know.
And the next thing you could have made so much of money,
Yes.
but you didn't realize.
Yeah.
And there's a lot you'll learn. But I love the demo account on Easy Equities because there's no fear. It's basically monopoly money.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that.
you can just go in and try everything and see what
Yes.
will work. I absolutely think it's fantastic. It's something that actually helped me overcome my fear and anxiety because, like I said, I like to see my money in my savings account, but you will never build any wealth by looking at it in your savings account. The reality is, like the bank interest rate or saving
Yes.
percentage that they give you is not going to be anywhere near what
Yeah.
you might get if you put some risk into investment or into building wealth in other ways.
And I think that's the other thing also, we're talking about market downturns or the opposite, where a share does really well. You can't time the market.
Exactly.
You
exactly.
do not know enough, and really no one does,
Nobody does.
know enough about, this is the perfect time to buy. Like, the market's in a downturn. I'll buy low and sell high. Guys, those are just words if you don't know them properly.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think
They're
from what I'm
buzzwords.
picking up from what you guys are saying, risk appetite is important.
Absolutely.
Do not put money when you know that is like your school.
Oh,
fees
that's
or,
also
you
so
know,
true.
absolutely.
Because I feel like that's where people
Don't
get it
gamble.
wrong.
Don't gamble it.
Exactly.
Don't
Yeah.
gamble it.
You know,
Yeah,
This is not a way to make a quick buck.
Oh,
Exactly.
yes.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I was going to say
Yes.
next. This is a long game. It is
Yes.
a marathon, not a sprint. You've
Yeah.
got to understand that. And especially to your point of don't refresh every 2
Yeah.
minutes. Because
Yeah.
during the day, if you do that, because of your anxiety, during the day, you will notice how the price goes up and down. And that will
Yeah.
make things a lot worse. So put it in there and don't put a lot in and forget about it.
Yes.
And then see as it grows.
Like, honestly, for me, I would say give yourself like a 3 to 6 month time horizon and tell yourself for every month, I'm going to put in 100 Rand. Like, it's literally the price of a takeout nowadays with the
Yeah.
price of things.
Yeah.
So do one less takeout or two less takeouts and put that money, that 100 Rand in to some sort of share, unit trust, whatever it is that you decide to do, and build that risk appetite because that's the only way to do it. And like you said, to your point, don't take money that's earmarked for something else and try and gamble
Oh,
this
yes.
in the
Yeah.
stock market.
Very, very valuable.
Totally.
That's just dangerous. And then that's how you build it. And then that's how you teach other people, like, this is what I've done, this is what I've tried. And then, you learn from your failures and you celebrate your successes when it comes to investing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then hopefully then it just becomes a little bit more second nature.
Yeah, and before you know it, you'll
Yeah. You'll be rich off your cryptocurrency now.
We hope. We hope.
Oh, everyone's going to go buy crypto now. Please don't buy crypto because of what we said. So you do everything right? So you
Yeah.
budget and you save and you invest. But how come sometimes your spending is still all over the place? Like, I know for me, I'll be like, I have a budget and everything is laid out and it's beautiful and I see it. And then I'm like, I've had a tough day. I work hard. I deserve a treat.
it happens to me sometimes.
Yes.
And then for me, how do I say this? It would happen and then I would do it. And then literally the next 2 months or 3 months, I always say, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's a lot of anxiety to carry
Exactly.
around,
And I
though.
just realized we're so hard on ourselves,
We are.
especially when it comes to, to money.
Yes.
Because for me, I'm like I said, I'll do it. And then the next 3 months, I wouldn't do it. And then during those 3 months, it's like the scarcity mentality.
Yes.
Like, if you do that again, what if, what if
Yeah.
this happens? What if that happens?
It's also not healthy. It's also really hectic.
I think what is important here is to have a little bit of grace, because sometimes you've got to remember that month on month there are some differences. So like if I use myself as an example, in a month where I am doing assignments and working, I'm like, I don't want to cook dinner. I find I order takeout a lot more because it's quick. It's like it'll literally deliver to me. It saves me cooking time. But then you've got to realize that that bill adds up.
Yeah.
So having a little bit of grace to say, like, because of your situation that you're in right now, you're already stretched and you can't do that extra little bit more. It's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're doing what you need to do to kind of get through that period. Not every day is like that. Not every month is like that. And because I feel like I like to be mindful about where I spend in those areas, because it's easy ways to save by saying, okay, I won't order takeout. I'll cook at home, especially in this economy. But sometimes I'll be like, I've had a really long day. I've been in
Yeah.
back-to-back meetings. My assignment is due like this weekend. I do not want to cook.
Yeah.
So having grace, not being hard on yourself is a lesson I've had to learn, because if I don't do that, then I'm not eating. Am I skipping dinner because I'm busy? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also the other thing that comes into it nowadays is that there's a lot of influencer culture.
Yes.
So it leads to
Yes.
like overconsumption
yes,
sometimes.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I mean, like I've said, I'm a huge fan of watching these TikTok reels and seeing these like people's lives and what they're buying and what their grocery hauls are. And sometimes you're like, oh, this person has this and it looks so nice. Before you even stop to think, is it my aesthetic? Do I need it? Is it what I want right now? What does it cost? Is it in my budget? You go out there and you buy it.
Yeah.
And you end up with like 12 mugs and you're like,
You don't need 12 mugs.
You don't
Yeah.
need 12 mugs.
Yeah.
I barely drink tea.
I bet exactly. It's like
Yeah.
2 of us in a house and you're buying 12 mugs. So think about it like that, right? But it is difficult because that consumerism culture, it's there to kind of try and trap you. And you want to have the latest next thing. And I think the most dangerous area for me that I try to be mindful on is the cell phone. Like every year, a new version of a phone comes out, and you kind of want to be like, let me upgrade my contract.
What's the latest Apple one now? 52,000 rand.
Yeah, I think it's
What?
going. I think it's going for 52.
Oh
yeah.
my word.
I mean, at this stage, the thing just needs to do my calls for me.
Basically.
I'm sorry for
No, but
Basically.
but it's one of those things that people are changing phones and people are changing cars, people are changing furniture, and you're like, taking to what you're saying, is it your aesthetic? Do you really like Apple? Or you get what I mean?
Do you just want to say, I've got the latest
iPhone?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think, we talk about this often because I always say, like a fancy car is not for me. So that's how I'd know that I was being influenced if I suddenly went out. And
Yeah,
it's just not me. But you're doing it because you're trying to either keep up or you're seeing what's out there. You want to compete with what's on social media.
Yeah.
Which is a really dangerous space to be in, I think. And I think that it also leads to your ego a little bit comes into play. Well, a large amount actually when it comes to money. Because I saw this really insightful saying the other day where it was around, if no one was watching you, would you buy what you buy?
Oh, very interesting.
like for me, a rule that I have is that if I am tempted to use a credit card or any other besides the cash or the money I have, then it's just saying to me, I can't afford it.
Oh, so if you can't buy it
If
in
I
cash,
can't buy it in cash,
can't buy it.
that means I can't afford it.
Okay,
You know?
okay, that's
so
smart.
that's the thing, especially for stuff that guys that you can skip that lunch.
Yes.
You get what I mean?
Yes.
You can decide not to change your hair. You can decide not to travel.
Yes.
But I'm just saying that if it means you getting in bad debt,
I love
as
what
opposed to
you're saying.
good debt, because there is good debt.
Yes. I think also when we're buying these things once off, right? So you're using credit to get a pair of pants or something. I'm like, you're going to look at the pair of pants in 3 months and be like, I'm still paying you off and I don't even like you anymore. So you really got to have a look at that. I think the other thing that we have a problem with nowadays is the instant gratification of all of it.
Oh, yes.
So we want to buy something, but we don't want to save for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to buy it now. Yeah. Which I think is really hard. And I think the other thing also that we do is that, we don't stop to say, okay, let me sleep on it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think it can be very tempting because you'll find places like online retailers, etc., will do a voucher if you buy in the next,
I know.
or a voucher expires at midnight.
I'm not gonna lie, I've fallen victim.
And then you're
I
like,
have
oh,
fallen victim.
yes, but if
numerous
I don't
times.
buy this by midnight, and free shipping, if I don't buy this by midnight, then I'm not gonna get it at this price, and then I would have lost out. So that also is kind of what lures you into that little retail trap where you might end up buying something. Sometimes it is something you need and you've been waiting for a voucher, but other times it's like something you don't need and you definitely didn't budget for.
Yeah.
Do you not think also when we talk about the consuming and the content creators, do you feel like sometimes people forget that these people are working?
Exactly.
These
This
are
is their
sponsored
job.
posts. You
Yes.
understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you looking at what they doing and you're thinking, I want that.
Yes.
But they literally that's considered their 9 to 5.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people forget that,
Love that,
And
yeah.
sometimes I feel like we tend to blame these content creators, but I'm like, they're working.
They were just providing a service of
exactly,
advertising.
yeah.
Exactly. That's the goal. It's
Yes.
digital marketing.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's supposed to lure you into buying it. That's what retail is. I suppose that's where you've got to be self-aware of, do I really need
Yeah.
this? And
Yeah.
does it fit into my budget? Or like you said, can I save towards it? Because if it's something you want to save towards, like personally, I find if it takes you 3 months, it should be more of an achievement to be able to buy it once you've actually saved for it versus less of an achievement, So waiting and making sure that if you really want it in 3 months, you'll be able to buy it.
Yeah. It's a whole psychological shift to tell yourself also sometimes if you can't have something,
Yeah.
to be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing I also learned is sometimes our spending is influenced more by the people we keep, like who are around us.
That's true.
And sometimes maybe it means that you need to cut off certain friendships. Maybe it means also spending less time with maybe certain colleagues, spending less time maybe with certain relatives, You need to prioritize as much as we're talking about prioritizing your mental health, you also need to prioritize your financial health.
Absolutely. I love that.
I love that.
And Hasa, I just want to touch on something you said just now, where you have to tell yourself, if I can't buy this, it's okay. But if we take it back to the start of this conversation, where we spoke about the fact that sometimes if you were in a household where you grew up and you weren't able to have anything, sometimes it pulls at that part of you, and that's why you want to buy it.
Now
and
I can afford it. Let me get it.
Yeah, and you
Let me get all
don't
of
feel
it.
like it's okay if I don't have it. You kind of take yourself back to a place where I didn't have it, not because I'm being financially smart, but because I actually, there was once a time I couldn't have it.
Yeah.
And so working on that, I think, it's constant. Every time, I think, for me, you get a hold of your feelings and your emotions as a person, you're trying to level up to the next level, and you've got to realize that, this can still trigger me.
Yeah.
And something I thought I was completely processed can still impact me.
Yeah.
And that's how you get to the real conversation of, okay, if I tell myself this is really okay, I will actually feel okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not buying it out of that trauma.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And that feeds also into what you're saying about the company that you keep.
Yeah.
So, you're hanging out with these people and you're like, oh, but they have it.
Yes.
I should have it. And I think having those really tough conversations, because if your friends are the ones who only want to be around you if you're spending money, those are probably not your friends.
Absolutely.
So you really need to be careful about like guarding your financial health.
Yeah.
About saying this is like, have those boundaries.
Yes.
So
Boundaries
this
are
is
so
outside
important.
of my budget.
Yeah.
I can't come to your really expensive
Yeah.
birthday dinner.
And the thing for me is, as you get older with friendships, I've come to realize that if your friendship is based solely on whether you will come to an expensive dinner, or that's what you need to do to prove that we can be friends or earn my friendship, then that's not the real friend for me. Because if it was a real friend, they'd say, okay, let's pack a picnic and go to Zoo Lake and have a picnic and feed the ducks and sit in the sunshine for a while.
Yes.
That, because the point of friendship is to catch up
Yes.
and be a part of each other's lives and fill each other's cups, not to give you anxiety and to compete and to earn that kind of love that comes out of it.
Yeah, and then to take everything that you've done that was so fancy just to document it on social
Oh
media.
my word, yes. The
Is
friend that
anyone
takes,
even having
No.
fun? No. But at
No,
least there's
like
pictures.
I don't know, you guys, if you've seen when you maybe sometimes you go out on a restaurant and you're trying to enjoy your meal, but when you're looking around, people are taking pictures, and you're like, I get it, but I'm here to enjoy my meal, and I
there's
feel
a
like
limit,
we've moved away to being in the moment and more about taking the pictures.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Yeah.
And
That's
the
all you're
thing.
doing it for. Yeah.
It's because you're so busy taking pictures to remember the moment that you're not actually in the moment, And I mean, that to me, like, I don't know, I'm not the friend that when the food comes, I'm like, turn the plate. I'm like, let's eat.
But take the picture, but don't make sure that, like make sure that everyone who's around you is not feeling so financially stressed out being
That's
there.
the thing.
Yeah.
That's
So
the
that you
thing.
all can have this moment
Like,
on
so that
social
it's
media.
that it's not inauthentic, because
No.
that's exactly what you're saying. People focus so much on the moment being for social media that sometimes to do that, it needs to be the fancy brand or the latest something, that you're not doing it for authentic reasons. If you truly love documenting your whole life, but you're authentic about it,
Completely agree.
Yeah.
and you're
Yes.
using just everything
Yes.
you want to use, whether you care about the brand or not, that's completely different conversation. But if you're doing it just to keep up with the Joneses,
Yes.
it's really inauthentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier in terms of you need to figure out what it is you like to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And take ownership of that. Why are you
Yes.
apologizing?
Yeah.
If a
Absolutely.
fancy dinner is not your cup of tea right now, if the Zoo Lake sounds more fun to you, that's okay. You don't have to be keeping up with everybody else. You don't have to feel the same way everybody else feels,
Yeah, absolutely.
And exactly what you said, Zan, in terms of, if you can't afford it with cash, you can't
Yeah.
afford it.
I
Like,
love
you shouldn't
that.
be getting into debt.
I love
trying to live up to these experiences, to be with
Yes.
everyone else.
Yes.
Like, it's okay to not always be in
Absolutely.
that space.
Not for clothing or like fast items that are easily replaceable, especially with how fast fashion has become. Not for that,
Yeah.
but in terms of obviously bigger ticket items, things that can make you money, it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And even then, I think, just to quickly touch on it, like even when you're doing those expenses to like buy a house or buy a car, like the things that could either get you money or get you to your job, it doesn't have to be the fanciest house.
True.
Or the fanciest car. Cars are such a status symbol. And then I know you love cars.
I love cars,
Don't
guys.
take
That's the thing,
offense.
you know yourself and
You know yourself and you know you
yeah,
love cars,
I love
right?
cars, yeah.
But those, like, there are people out there who, especially as they start in corporate, will buy a fancier car and be sitting with a big car installment And you must know, the fancier the car, the higher the insurance, the higher the maintenance costs. You hit a pothole in Johannesburg, you have to
your tire
replace your
gone.
tire,
Yes.
and those are inevitable, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So you got to add up all those additional costs and the petrol, because small cars are practical and fuel efficient. So don't go outside your means, is what I'm trying to say,
Yes.
for status.
Yeah.
No, you know, start small, build up, save that money, invest that money.
Absolutely. And
You know?
also, you know, if you manage to build up a good deposit to put down on a loan,
Yes.
Yeah.
don't turn around and say to yourself, oh, I could get a bigger loan now.
Exactly.
you see?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You'd rather put down that deposit,
Yes.
have a smaller monthly repayment,
Yes.
you know, and live authentically with that. You don't have to
Yes.
now be like, ooh, look at what I did. I'll just go bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exactly,
Because,
exactly.
you know, who are you
Yeah.
spending for?
And one thing touching about that, you're like, when you start a new job, you get a big car. One thing sometimes people are not aware is that other people have additional income.
You know, side hustle culture is a big thing now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I think in this economy,
Yes.
you've got to look for a side hustle. The reality
Understanding
is,
that not all of them are going to make you rich.
oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that's true.
Sometimes-
That's a tough lesson.
yeah,
If you know
sometimes
what your financial goals are.
Oh,
Exactly.
yes.
Generational wealth mean to you?